Today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I am streaming to you from Central Europe here in Hungary, close to the Danube. I hope everybody has had a fantastic week and is looking forward to a wonderful weekend, Saturday, Sunday. Hi, Banjit da Silva, Kleber Puranje. Good to see students already in class. This lesson is brought to you by aehelp.com for academic IELTS. Again, I like putting this URL up at the top of the board just so you can check it out at any time. And gieltshelp.com for the general version of the test. Today we are looking at a reading passage taken from our academic materials. It is passage 1, test 1, book 1. That's what we will be looking at today. You can download our academic IELTS help app. Just search for that in your Apple App Store or your Google Play Store. Look for our Shield. Our app integrates with our websites for a truly world-class learning experience. If you have questions, send me an email, adrian@aehelp.com. That's my name, at academicenglishhelp.com. And again, you can get our exam books in soft or hard copy from Amazon. Just search for AE Help's Academic IELTS or GE Help's General IELTS in your Amazon website and you will find us there also. All right, so right now we are doing reading. Everybody can chat, of course, and let's get cracking with today's lesson. Boom, there it is, our beautiful picture. Hello everyone, good to see many of our members. Sheng Hung also in the class. Nabina Giawali, good to see you, Manpreet. Abhi, CS Murad, fantastic, many of you in class. Awesome, some good participation. So, here we go. We are looking at a picture and the title. In the paper-based exam, the pictures will be black and white. In the computer-based exam, it might be color. I'm not sure. I'll have to check that out. You always want to look at the picture to help you think about the topic, about the passage. You want to immediately include yourself. So, hey, there's an iceberg. Boom. There I am, waving at you. Hi. Okay, I'm on the iceberg. That's me there in stickman form. In my other hand, I'm waving. Hi. I'm on the iceberg. Okay, you might think I'm a bit crazy, but not really. I always believe that when students include themselves in information, then that information becomes more valuable, easier to remember, easier to interpret. Okay? So use the picture to remind yourself that you need to visualize and include yourself in the information. Be a part of it. Okay? Become a part of what you read. People did that in the past all the time. They became part of the story that they were reading. That's why they remembered the stories for decades and decades. People forgot to do that these days. It's not good. So, tip 1. When you see a picture, remember, visualize, and include yourself in the information. Okay, it's really important. All right, now the title, Mountains of Ice. What is that? What are you going to read about? Try to predict the reading. That's what the title is there for. The title is always there, not just on the IELTS, but magazines, books. The title is there so you can get an idea of what you will read. Paranjay says, well, probably we'll be reading about icebergs. Okay. So tip number 2, use the title to predict the passage. Ask, what Why? How? Okay, always that critical thinking. So Paranji says, well, this one, probably you're going to be reading about icebergs. Okay. Yeah, different kinds of icebergs. Clever. Maybe. Sure. Why? Why would we read about icebergs? And what are icebergs? So icebergs, as you see in this picture, they're these big chunks of ice that are swimming or floating. You see that? Oh, I'm still there on the ice. I'm just smaller. The ice is bigger. There we go. So the ice is swimming or floating in the ocean, of course. All right. So why read about it? Carolina Assanio says, maybe about global warming. Something to do about that. Amarjit says it's a part of nature. Sure, could be. Could be some other reasons. Why else? Santa says maybe because it's dangerous to ships like the Titanic. Kleber says dangerous to ships. And Santa says, yeah, like the Titanic. Okay, so those are synonyms, but throw them up there anyway. So can be dangerous for boats and ships. And somebody said, yeah, like the Titanic. All right. Those are some good ideas. How do they happen? So how do these beautiful, massive chunks of ice come into existence? Okay. So C.S. Murad says the melting of glaciers, perhaps, yes. So they are parts of glaciers. Where? Where are they parts of glaciers? What part of the earth do we find these massive floating chunks of ice? So Amarjit says maybe the Antarctic. Samara says the North Arctic. Yep. Absolutely. North Pole, right? Sol says around Greenland. Good. Yeah. Nice. If you ever flew over Greenland, you will see that. What a beautiful part of the world. All right. Great job, everyone. So that's the kind of thinking you want to induce and you want to produce when you come across a passage like this one. So you look at the picture, you read the title, Mountains of Ice, you visualize yourself, you include yourself in the information, and then you think, okay, well, what is this? Why is this? How is this? And now you have a much better chance to do well on this passage. Next step, look at the questions. Okay. So we look at the questions. We come to the first set of questions, questions 1 to 5. It's yes, no, not given. Do I read these yes, no, not given questions? So, do I read these yes, no, not given questions? The answer? According to JS Kiva, Carolina, Puranje, and Saima, everybody's saying no. No. Okay. Because these types of questions have false and not given information that is confusing for the human mind. As the human mind is not a linear machine like a computer. Computer is like 0010001, right? And so on. As where the human mind, when it perceives information, the human mind is always changing. It's always changing information that it learns. So here's your beautiful brain, okay, with its fissures and elements, okay? And your brain, when it thinks of information, it thinks about it in the form of a web. So you really have to work hard to have it work as a linear machine, okay? It bounces information in many directions, and that's why it's a much more powerful processor than a simple binary computer. But that also means that if you give it the yes, no, not given information here, and then you read here, and then you answer here, might seem a bit crazy, then by the time you get to this point in your brain, this process isn't clear on whether the information is coming from here or from here, and it's going to have a lot of confusion between these elements. So that's why you do not want to make it difficult for your mind to differentiate information between questions in the passage that's not in the passage. Okay? So that's the reason you should always avoid any information in questions that's not in the passage. I hope that makes logical sense. Again, students, our company, and I'm just one of members. I'm the member that you see, of course, but there are others among us. You can see their faces on our website. We're a team of psychologists, sociologists that specialize in human thinking, and that's what we bring to our IELTS teaching. So we've tested this with many students. So don't read these yes, no, not given questions, okay? Just skip them. You don't know which ones are false, which ones are not given. Okay, and then we have another question here. It's the sinking of the Titanic. So somebody was really good in their prediction. You choose one word only from the passage to complete this summary. Should you read this question? Is this okay to read before or skim read before you read the passage? Okay. Raj says yes. Carolina agrees. J.S. Kiva says sure, definitely read over it. It's a paraphrase. Yeah. Okay. Kleber's asking, what if the statement is not given in the passage, but you know for sure that it's false? Still not given, Kleber. That's exactly why you don't read those questions before. Okay, this one you can read. This one is okay. It's all in the passage. So let's skim over it. You don't need to try to understand it perfectly. Just skim read over it, just to give you an idea. The sinking of the Titanic. Because there was no international group which monitored icebergs in 1912, it was the responsibility of the something to make sure there were no icebergs in the ship's path. I know I'm going fast, but you don't have time to read these slowly. You just skim over them, get some main ideas. The chief reason the iceberg wasn't detected was the something of the sea that night. Because of this, there were no waves crashing against the iceberg, making it difficult to spot. The captain swerved, but the iceberg scraped the side of the ship, ripping the something of the ship. Things should have been fine nevertheless, but the watertight compartments were poorly designed, and once the water was in a few compartments, it was able to something into all the others. This was a major engineering defect which resulted in the eventual sinking. Okay, so you skim over them. Here we have complete the sentence type question. 2 words, pay attention to the instructions. Again, all of this is in the passage. We skim over it. Okay, now students, I'm presenting for you, but I'm working with you at the same time. So read with me. Okay, read with me. All right, so let's read together. Make sure you read with me. I'm not just reading for you. This isn't a bedtime story. All right, here we go. To avoid a Titanic-like disaster in the future, something formed the International Ice Patrol, IIP. The IIP's goal is to track the relevant data and something of icebergs. The Canadian Space Agency bounces something off the water to measure iceberg movement. This data renders large-scale maritime disasters something. All right, and then the next reading passage. Sure, we got the idea. Let's read together. Let's read and visualize. Okay? So here we're going to do some nice, smooth reading. We're going to picture what we read. The goal is to see the image of what we read. Again, remember, include yourself. Okay? And after each paragraph, I will ask you, what do you see when you read this paragraph? Okay, so let's read together. The word iceberg derives from the Dutch word ijsberg, meaning ice mountain. Icebergs are sections of glaciers that have broken off during the warmer summer months and float freely in open water. Icebergs are typically found in open water, predominantly around Greenland and Antarctica. The characteristics of icebergs, their historical impact, and the methods we employ today to monitor them are important topics. Great. What do you see when you read this paragraph? So in your mind, as you read this paragraph, what did you actually see? So give me something that's tangible. Give me something that I can draw. I can't draw what an iceberg is, Kleber. I can't draw how an iceberg is formed. Okay. You can't see an explanation. Okay, that's too conceptual. All right. Include yourself and make the invisible into visible. All right. So I'll show you what I see. Okay. When I read a passage like this, what I see is a glacier. There's a giant piece of ice falling into the ocean off of the glacier in the warm summer month, June or July. So the sun's shining. And here I am standing on top of that iceberg. For fun, I'll be waving at you. I like to really be visual. And I'm a Dutchman. I have a little one of those interesting little Dutch hats. And maybe in this hand, because I'm very, very Dutch, so I like to take my windmill with me. Of course, that's very known in Holland that you got these windmills. Okay, so I'm a Dutchman standing on top of a chunk of ice, and I'm falling into the ocean somewhere around Antarctica or maybe Greenland. Whee! There I go. Okay. That visual picture gives me not only a lot of information, but it also creates a very strong position in my mind for where certain information is located. Okay. Now, that comes with practice. It seems silly, but it comes with practice, and practicing this and becoming a very powerful reader is an exceptionally useful tool, okay, on the exam and in later life, okay? Kleber, maybe don't make these funny drawings on the test day, but definitely as you're getting ready for the exam and when you're reading these passages, you might want to do quick little stick drawings beside each paragraph just to see how well you can create these, okay? All right? So, yeah, sure, why not? Be creative, be imaginative, okay? That leads to powerful thinking. And that's visible. So saying I'm visualizing how an iceberg is formed is not really visualizing. That's just thinking. Visualizing means that there is an inner image in the mind's eye. It's called the mind's eye. Okay? All right. So, here we go. Let's keep going. Next paragraph. Do it together. Okay? Same question coming up. What do you see? The reason icebergs exist is because of the difference between the density of ice and the density of salt water. The density of ice is approximately 920 kilograms per cubic meter, while the density of salt water is approximately 1,025 kilograms per cubic meter. Because ice is less dense than water, it floats. However, because the difference in densities is so small, only about 10% of the iceberg is visible above the ocean surface. The rest of the iceberg hides below the water. This is the origin of the familiar expression tip of the iceberg, used to describe a situation where only part of the problem is noticeable. Fantastic. Okay. So now what do you see? Yeah, Carolina, you do have note paper in the paper-based exam. Yeah. So what do you see? Okay, so Yelda says, I see that some parts of the iceberg are on top of the water. Okay, Sima says, reason certain measurements of the iceberg. What do you actually see? Let me ask this way. Where are you in this picture? So in this picture, where are you in the iceberg? Okay, of course, I'll do maybe a quick little drawing for you. Okay. Where do you see yourself? Okay, what I see is something like this. Okay. And again, I'm this stick man. Okay. Maybe still that Dutchman. Why not? But this time I am scuba diving with a really long snorkel. Okay. So I have my scuba diving gear, my flippers. Okay. And I can even visualize that this is 90% of my snorkel. It has to be really long because the iceberg is there. Okay. All right. To be perfectly honest with you, I even see a little bird standing there. That's just my crazy mind. Yeah, anyway, I'm that Dutchman, okay, snorkeling underneath there. Oh, there we go. Okay, I can't read the Cyrillic. I really should learn the Cyrillic alphabet. But one of our students from a Slavic part of the world is saying, I'm on a ship alongside. So I'm here alongside the iceberg. This is what one student is saying. That's great. Whoa, danger, look out, flag, I give up. Okay. Yeah, that's good. All right, I like it. Yeah, Shanghung says, I'm swimming in the ocean. Okay, good, there you go. Now you're thinking. Fantastic. Okay, that's exactly what you should be doing. Good. You're on a boat. You're looking at the tip of the iceberg. You know that there's a lot hidden underneath. All right, good. You're visualizing. Fantastic. So far, so good. Now you're keeping a mental log, okay, first, second, third, of the information. Bunjit says, I'm scuba diving and exploring the rest of the iceberg. Fantastic. Okay. Here we go. Let's keep going. Icebergs range in height from 1 meter all the way up to over 75 meters above sea level. The height measures the visible portion of the iceberg. The tallest icebergs may have a total height of over 650 meters, including their underwater portion. The largest ever recorded was 168 meters above water, meaning the entire height of this floater was likely greater than 1,500 meters. For reference, that is twice the height of most skyscrapers. Different sized icebergs have different name class. Oh, sorry. Let's stop there. That's the end of the paragraph. Okay. So, shorter paragraph. All right. So, what do you see at the end of this paragraph, talking about the height of these icebergs? What do you actually see with that one? Okay. Jian Yu Win, best wishes to you in Vietnam. Raj says comparisons between different icebergs. Carolina says the tallest iceberg. How do you see that, Carolina? So how do you see that tall iceberg? Okay, Clever says, I'm reading the Guinness book with the biggest iceberg ever. Okay, Clever, that's a good visualization. C.S. Murad, very good. Now you're being clever. I am on top of a 168-meter iceberg, enjoying a coffee and maybe the view, right? Very good. I love it. That's how you need to visualize when you read. Train your mind to do it, okay? So this is C.S. Murad says, I'm on this massive iceberg. Maybe there's a frozen skyscraper inside of it, okay? So there's that giant skyscraper frozen inside. And Murad says, I'm sitting up here, sipping on a cup of coffee, okay, and enjoying the view. Woohoo! All right. Okay. Rook says, wow, that's bigger than the Burj Khalifa, 1,500 meters. Indeed it is. All right. Cool. Right on. Paranjay says, I see a skyscraper and an iceberg side by side. Okay. It's very good. All right. Great. Now you're all visualizing. Now you're doing it right. Now your brain is liking what you're doing. Guess what? When your brain enjoys what it sees, what it learns, it does this. Give me that information. I'm holding it. And when your brain holds information, and guess what? There's a question. Your brain says, oh, no problem. I got it. Okay. So you have to train your brain to grab hold information. Because we're visual creatures, the best way to do that is to visualize information. And because we're egocentric creatures, it means we love ourselves. We love to be included in the information. Okay, here we go. Let's keep reading. Different sized icebergs have different name classifications. The smallest icebergs are called brash ice. The next category up in size is called growlers. And the ones after that are called bergy bits. For whatever reason, after those three classes, the people in charge of naming the icebergs got a little less creative. The next class simply ranged from small to very large icebergs. Icebergs can be massive objects. Very large icebergs can weigh more than 200,000 tons. The largest iceberg ever recorded was over 30,000 square kilometers in area. Again, for reference, that is approximately the size of the country of Belgium. Okay? Ooh-ha, wow. All right, definitely visualizing there. This is what I see. You can tell me what you see. Let's see if we match up. So I see little different pieces of ice. Okay. And then I see one in the distance that's literally the size of a country with a flag on it. Okay. And maybe I'm standing on this one and I'm looking at that big one with some binoculars. Okay. Ooh-wee. Look at the size of that iceberg. I want that one. Put my flag on it, on my own country, at least until it melts, right? But you'll have a country for a while. I'm sure it'll take a while for it to melt. All right. Cool. There we go. So that's what I'm visualizing. Hadi Ipek, I love it. You're very similar to what I just said. So Hadi says, I live on an iceberg country. Maybe it's your country, right? All right. Cool. Right on. You're getting the hang of it. And then you're classifying those by names, right? All right. So let's keep going. The most famous iceberg in history is undoubtedly the one which eventually sunk the English ship Titanic off the coast of Newfoundland in 1912. At that point in time, there was no central group which monitored iceberg activity. Ships relied on lookouts to spot the iceberg. For the Titanic, the unfortunate attitude was that any iceberg big enough to do damage to the ship would be seen in time. This attitude was, of course, catastrophically wrong. The main reason it failed was the remarkable calmness of the water that ill-fated night. The easiest way to spot an iceberg from afar is to see waves crashing up against it. But on the night the Titanic sank, there were no such helpful waves. For all intents and purposes, the iceberg was invisible until it was too late. The captain swerved at the last minute, but as the side of the ship scraped across the iceberg, the hull of the ocean liner tore open. Things still may have been fine had it not been for the poorly designed watertight compartments. It turns out that when too many compartments were affected, the water was simply able to spill over to all the other compartments. This was an engineering defect that contributed to the Titanic's sinking. Okay, so here, fairly simple to visualize. You're on the Titanic. It's a calm night. There are no waves. Nobody sees the iceberg. Boom, it hits. You're sinking. The water's coming into the compartments, spilling through the doors. There's panic. Okay, terrible. Let's keep going. After the disaster of the Titanic, maritime authorities realized that a system needed to be put in place to monitor icebergs so that such a catastrophe would not be repeated. By 1914, the International Ice Patrol, IIP, was formed. Their purpose was to track all of the relevant meteorological and oceanographical data and to chart the movement of all major icebergs. Today, technology is used to track iceberg data. The Canadian Space Agency has multiple radar satellites which send microwaves off the ocean surface and record the reflection to track the movement of icebergs. Maritime vessels have access to this information in real time, which allows them to know exactly where any local icebergs are at any moment, meaning that a repeat of the Titanic disaster is virtually impossible. Okay, so that's it. Hopefully you visualize this last one as well, where you basically have this satellite, okay, and the satellite is sending signals, bouncing them off the planet of the Earth. There's an iceberg there, boom, it goes back, and it's a radar, and you see the icebergs. And in this case, I'm still the little Dutchman standing on this satellite, making some notes about where these icebergs are. And of course, I'm now a member of the Canadian Space Agency. All right. So, good. We visualized, we read, we know exactly what's going on. Now, try to remember back to what you saw in what order. What did you see first? For me, I saw myself as a Dutchman with the windmill breaking off from the side of a glacier on a warm summer month into the ocean. Okay? Remember my second picture? I was scuba diving, right? Because 90% of the iceberg was underwater. What was my third picture? I used Maraud's for that one. It was kind of cool. I was sitting on top of a really, really big iceberg, sipping a coffee. And there was a frozen skyscraper inside of it. Okay, then what was the next one? Oh, those bigger and bigger pieces of icebergs in that country that was the size of a country iceberg with a flag on it that I was looking at, remember? Okay, then came the Titanic, and finally the satellite. So that's how I do it. Okay, I visualize it, I catalog the information, and I connect it. So I use that ability of my mind to create these images, to create a linear log of information. Okay. All right, let's do this. Let's do the yes, no, not given. Let's do it together. Okay. I hope that's clear for students. So I hope that you are understanding the importance of visualizing and the importance of practicing this before the exam. Okay, you'll do much better. You'll be much more calm. You're not going to flip the pages like a madman that's lost their mind. You'll be much more confident in your answers as well, even if you do not understand every word in the passage. It's okay. You don't have to understand every word. You just have to get the main ideas. Okay, Carolina, I'm glad that that's clear. Zareen, I love your visualization. You're in a parachute looking at the Titanic. Okay, let's do the yes, no, not given. These questions, they seem scary. They're not. I'll show you how to do them. Number one, icebergs are sections of glaciers that have broken off in the winter months. Use computer logic. If this, then that. Okay. First question, is it important to know, okay, so is it important to know how icebergs are formed? For this passage. Okay, so is it important for this passage to know how these icebergs are formed? Is that important? Yes or no? I think it's important. I'm not sure if a lot of you are saying, no, it's not important, but I definitely think that it's important to know how icebergs are formed for this passage. So in this question, my first question is it important? Now you'll see the logic here. So if my answer is, let me do this with some more space. So here, you'll see it as a pyramid scheme, okay? So here, let's do it like this. So with yes, no, not given, you ask, is it important? If the answer is yes, then it's going to be yes or no, okay, or true or false, if it's a true and false. If the answer is no, then the answer is not given, okay? So here, if the answer is yes, then we know that it's given. Okay, does that make sense? So is it important? Yes, it's important. So we know it's given. We know that it's not given. Okay. So in this case, now we ask, is it true? So is it true that icebergs are large pieces of ice that break off in the winter months? Is that true? No. Right? So, no, it's not. Now, this is a yes, no, not given. It's not true, false, not given, so be careful. So the answer here is no. Okay? That's the logic. All right? So that's the tree of logic for these yes, no, not given questions, and for most of them, you should not be skim reading or searching the passage, because you cannot skim read or search for not given. Okay? So my answer to the first one is no. Let's go to the next one, use the same logic. Icebergs exist because of the different densities of ice and salt water. Is it important to know why icebergs exist? Kleber says yes. So it's given. Is it true that icebergs exist because of different densities of ice and salt water? So is it true that that's why they exist? Yes. Therefore, the answer is yes. 90% of the iceberg is hidden below the water. For the topic of icebergs, is it important to know how much of an iceberg is hidden below the water? Yes. Is it true that 90% of an iceberg is hidden below the water? Yes. Bonus question. What kind of paraphrasing is this statement to the passage? Let's see if some of our students can figure that one out. So, bonus question number 3. What type of paraphrasing is this statement in connection to the passage? So Saul says it's the reverse paraphrasing. Saul, very good. Yeah, it's an antonym type paraphrasing. Saul gets my double super thumbs up. It's an antonym type inverse paraphrasing. Yeah. So 10% above, 90% below. It's the antonym negative type inverse paraphrasing, right? Okay, very good. Shanghun got it too. Yeah, very good. All right. Okay, pay attention to that. Students, pay attention to that. Okay. And pay attention to specific words like winter months in the first one, right? Okay. All right, here we go. The name classifications of icebergs derive from the Dutch language. Is it important to know where the name classifications of icebergs derive from? No, it's not. Okay. So this one is not given. Now, here, for this number 4, okay, is where visualization can really help me. Which paragraph did I visualize myself? I mean, okay, I was joking with you a bit, so I visualized myself as the Dutchman on most paragraphs, but which paragraph did I actually see myself as the Dutchman? So where did I actually see myself as the Dutchman going wee off the side of a glacier? First paragraph, second paragraph, third paragraph? C.S. Mraz says the first paragraph. Very good. Okay, which paragraph was dealing with name classifications? So the first paragraph, I visualized myself as a Dutch person. Which paragraph was actually dealing with name classifications? Yeah, so you're saying third, right? It was the third. Remember that? Okay. So in the first one, I was going we. The second one, I was scuba diving underwater. And it was the third one, right? Actually, the fourth one. Sorry. Fourth one. Fourth. The third one, I was sitting on top of the really tall iceberg, I believe. And it was the fourth one where I was actually looking at the iceberg the size of a country. That's right, Shanghung. Very good, Carolina. It was the fourth one. The third one, I was having a coffee on top of the iceberg, right? So it was the fourth one. So if I visualized well, I know that this was not in this paragraph, right? So I know that it's a not given. Okay. All right. Some icebergs can be the size of a country. Is it important to know how big or how small icebergs can be? For number 5, is that important? Yes, it's important. Yes, JS Kiva. Yes, Tuvu. Absolutely. Okay. Is it true that they can be the size of a country? Absolutely. I mean, we really saw that clearly, right? So the size of Belgium, not just any country, but a large country. So, yes. Okay? So, no, yes, yes, not given, yes. Those are the answers. Very good, students. Now, hopefully, you have a clear idea of how visualizing and logic can really help to get the right answers and build confidence. Again, the IELTS exam, especially the academic, it's not just a language test, it's a test of thinking as well. Okay? There's no denying it. That's why there are two versions of the exam, academic and general. If it's just an English test, you don't need two versions, you need just one version. Okay? All right. Here we go, sinking of the Titanic. Let's do it. Now here, if I had to search, yes, it's all in one paragraph, so I could go back and maybe look for some words. But I would try to do this on my own, and then if I'm not sure, maybe check. So the sinking of the Titanic, it's one word only. Because there was no international group which monitored icebergs in 1912, it was the sole responsibility of the who. Whose responsibility? And if you visualize this, you'll get it right away if you remember the word. It's not the chief, Saima. It's not the ship. And there's no international group, so it's not the IIP, Vijaya. It's probably not the captain. It's not the crew. It's not the engineer. Life Mania says it's the lookouts. Yeah, it's the lookouts. One word. Now, if you don't know this, of course, go back and search for it. So if you're having trouble with that one and you still got some time, then go back, skim read, and you might find it. Okay, so there was no central group. So here's your no central group. So no international group. Ships relied. So relied means the responsibility of the lookouts to spot the iceberg. So there you go. The lookout, if that's new for you, the lookout is basically when you have a ship, the easiest way to think about it is a pirate ship. Okay. So you have your pirate ship, and on top of the pirate ship, there's, I believe it's called the crow's nest, okay, at the top. And the crow's nest is the person who is looking to see, okay, so maybe you got the skull and the crossbones. It's a pirate ship, arr. So that's your lookout. The lookout is the one that's at the very top of the mast, sitting there looking at the ocean to spot land, rocks, any kind of danger, large trees in the water. Okay, that's the lookout. Why? Because they're looking out. Okay, so lookout. All right, let's keep going. The chief reason the iceberg wasn't detected was the something of the sea that night. What was the sea that night? So what was it? Very good, Paranjay. The calmness. Yeah, calmness of the sea that night. Okay, calm. It's not enough. It's the calmness of the sea, okay? Because calmness is the noun, okay? The calmness. Because of this, there were no waves crashing against the iceberg, making it difficult to spot. The captain swerved, but the iceberg scraped the side of the ship, ripping the something of the ship. So the iceberg hits the ship, and it rips what part of the ship? Shakrani, good luck on your exam. Very good, Paranjay. Yeah, it's the hull. It's the hull of the ship. The hull is the main body of the ship. Okay, that's the hull of the ship. So when you have a boat, this part of the boat is the hull. It's not a hall. It's not H-A-L-L. It's H-U-L-L. Okay? But you can think about it like a hallway because inside it's like a long corridor, right? So it's hull of the ship. Okay? All right. So, again, if you're having trouble, you might look for it. So look for synonyms. It's all in this last paragraph. So the captain swerved at the last minute, but as the side of the ship scraped across the iceberg, the hull of the ocean liner tore open. Okay? So there it is. The hull of the ocean liner tore open. All right. Oop. So, a few more to go. Things should have been fine, nevertheless, but the water-tight compartments were poorly designed, and once the water was in a few compartments, it was able to something into all the others. This has to be a verb, right? It's to something, so it's infinitive. To something into all the other compartments. What does water do? It doesn't enter. That's right. So it spills. That's right. It spills into the other compartments. This was a major engineering defect which resulted in the eventual sinking. All right. So now we have just these fill in the blanks, 2 words each. I'm going to leave these ones for you for homework. Let's see how well you remember from the passage and you visualize. I'll leave these ones for homework. Send me an email and I'll let you know if you got the correct answer or not. The video will be on our channel, so you can look back at the passage and go through it again. My email address is adrian@aehelp.com. And remember, students, get the best online IELTS help and practice from our websites, aehelp.com for academic, gieltshelp.com for general. We are preparing thousands of students for their exams each day, and most of them do meet with success that follow our instructions and practice. We base our strategies on the human mind, on natural learning, and on logic. So check us out there, aehelp.com, gieltshelp.com. Join our premium courses, spend a couple dollars, save yourself a lot of stress and time. That's it for me for today. I will be back tomorrow with Task 2 essay finish for our members and a speaking part 3 for everyone. Much love to all of you, and I wish you a happy start to your weekend. Bye for now.